Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. Alright, now I am a Johnny come lately to this game, but I am here today with a quick look at D100 Dungeon and the D100 Dungeon mapping game, a solo adventure game from Martin Knight. Now most of the YouTube channels that I follow a lot or watch somewhat frequently have already covered this game a lot. I know my favorite geek gamers, Deborah over there, she has done a ton of coverage on this game. She absolutely loves it. Rob Oren has been doing a ton of coverage on his channel. He loves it. And I had a feeling I would like it. But for some reason, I just kind of kept putting it off, getting it. And before this whole COVID thing went in, I decided to put in an order for the mapping game from Game Crafters, print-on-demand company, and it finally arrived not too long ago. So it took a couple months, 3 months to finally get here because they were having to shut down for a while, and it finally came in. And I've finally started to learn the game and played through a couple times, and I love this game. This game is so much fun, and I can totally see this game, working its way onto my top 10 list, especially if Martin Knight keeps supporting the game like he has been. It's just an incredibly fun game. Now, one of the things that I really like most about this game is it totally gives me that feeling of playing basic Dungeons and Dragons back in the day, the red box. And I think a lot of that has to do with just the way, like, everything that you need to play the mapping game, the board game type version, everything fits in to this nice box here that reminds me of the old red box. And just being able to, open it up, take out your books, you've got your pencils in here and your dice and your character sheets, your map tiles if you're going to be using those, or your dungeon sheets if you're going to be drawing your maps, and your combat trackers. It feels like when I used to get the red box out of my closet or whatever and open it up, and I would have all my stuff in there, set it up, play an adventure. My friend and I, we really never played basic D&D correctly. We were always just kind of like messing around, making dungeons and just kind of like running through the dungeons. And this game totally gives me that feel. And I love that everything can just be kept in one small box, and it can be set up and put away in really no time at all. And the amount of adventure and excitement in this game is really almost unparalleled. All of the crazy things that can happen to you while you play this game, and a lot of unfortunate things. I just wanted to go over. So this is my second character that I made, and his name was Baronoff, and I'm calling him Baronoff the Unfortunate. He was a level 1 rogue. This was his very first adventure. Just a really simple character. He had on a leather cap, leather gloves. I had a bow, so that was in both hands, and a leather tasset. My strength ended up being 40, dexterity 60, intelligence 20, a dwarf rogue. I'm playing just the training dungeons right now, so my encounter level is at -40, and the encounter level just kind of tells you the strength of the enemies that you're going to be up against. And then for my skills here, I had a dodge, locks. I was lucky, not very. I was strong, and I was better at supposedly I was supposed to be better at disarming traps. And I had 20 hit points. But Baronoff the Unfortunate had a very rough go at this dungeon. And so he is just going to retire as a broken and battered adventurer or maybe he'll take some time off and come back. I'm probably just going to reset this character sheet and try again, but I had a hilarious time. So I entered the dungeon here. It was an empty room. So there are 3 different colors of dungeon, or 4. You have yellow border dungeon rooms, which are empty rooms. You have red border dungeon rooms, which are encounters where you're going to have to fight a monster. You have green dungeon rooms, which you will have some kind of geographic encounter, just a random encounter that isn't always bad, or isn't always like a monster will be in those. And then you have these blue rooms, which are kind of like your objective rooms if your quest has an objective. So anyway, so here's what happened to Baronoff. He entered this room. It was supposed to be empty. I was searching. I triggered a trap. I fell in a pit, took some damage, climbed out, took me some time, went into this room, fell in another pit, climbed out. By that time, a wandering monster had appeared. And that wandering monster, the first monster I drew in this dungeon, was one of the toughest monsters in this opening set, which is only monsters 1 through 18. Everything from the easiest, from the giant rats, all the way to an orc. But this guy was a Goatman priest, and he has dark magic, which is pretty brutal, especially fighting a level 1, 0, or like just a total novice adventurer. The Goatman priest just totally destroyed me. Ended up destroying 2 of my health potions from my belt, because I had started the game with 3 health potions, and he like hit me in my belt and broke 2 of them and took me down to half of my hit points. I left that room, came into this room. This door was locked and it was trapped, and I failed to pick the lock, so the door blew up in my face. I lost more hit points. Went into this room. It ended up being moss-covered boulders, which I luckily made it through, but in searching it, I found a poisonous snake which bit me, and I became poisonous. Made it into this room where there were some giant spiders, and I got trapped in their web 2 turns in a row and went down to 0 hit points. So Baronoff, the unfortunate, on his very first dungeon, was able to explore 4 rooms before dying. Just an absolutely hilarious comedy of errors. Yeah, I loved it. It was just hilarious. It was so many bad dice rolls in a row. And that is what I love most about this game, is I love games where you get to roll on charts. And this is basically, chart rolling the game, because you have so many charts to be able to roll on. You have a whole chart just on armor, for different kinds of armor that you can find. You have boosts, which are kind of like boons. These are things that you can get that can help boost your character, like better armor there. Or you can get wit. You can find spells. You can become skillful. You can find weapons. You can become brawnier. You can become quick. Then you have curses, the opposite of boosts or boons. These are ways that you can, you become cursed, so you become clumsy. You have an illness. Demise, you become mindless or clumsy. Divine anger. You have a chart for different kinds of doors. You have locked doors, jammed doors. Locked doors, you have to use picks. Jammed doors, you have to open with your strength. There are different traps. There are magically trapped doors. There are traps. There are doors that need levers that you have to find a lever somewhere else in the dungeon to open. Then you have all these encounters. So I'm playing with the mapping game, which comes with all of the monsters in card form, so you don't have to write things down. It comes with 2 sets. So you have the basic set on one side, and on another side you have the set of monsters from one of the expansion books. So a whole bunch of monsters to encounter, and then you have things that you can search and find, where you can find treasure, or you can also find traps and stuff. Then you have your awesome, this is like the coolest, it's the geographic table, which this is where you're going to find, again, more traps. You're going to find barrels, bottomless pits, different kinds of moss, treasure chests, levers, lava, underground rivers. You're going to find fountains and trees and boulders, crypts, tombs, trapped chests, different mushrooms, and just all kinds of different. You can come across a treasure hunter, great treasure troves. There's all kinds of things you're going to be finding. All kinds of different items to find, different kinds of potions and keys and lantern oil, special keys. You can make investments in, when you're outside of the dungeon, in certain things like trading or financing, holdings, or wars. There's going to be like legends. So these are going to be like special things that you can find. Like you can find like something of the stars, the sword of the stars or something, and that's going to give you like a +10 to your strength or something that'll give you. So this is kind of like your special magical weapons. When you kill monsters, you can get their body parts that you might need for quests. You have all kinds of different quests to go on, different spell charts, all kinds of treasure charts, and weapon charts. And my God, yeah, this game is just so much fun, and it really does feel like a dungeon simulator. You are creating a character. It's pretty simple to start with a new character. You do need to, when you make a character, if you only have the base book, you do need to take that character through the first 5 training missions, because you need to get him or her kind of leveled up with better gear and experience before you can start tackling the rest of the quests. And so the training missions will kind of just work you through 5, a little easier adventures in order for your character to level up a bit. But now if you have the Adventurer's Companion, this is an expansion book that actually has some rules about creating an adventurer and then fast tracking that adventurer to become able to go on to the stronger quests without having to go through the training quests. And I also have this dragon armor book. So what I really want to do is I am going to make a fast track character, probably. And I'm trying to decide if I want to play through the campaign that is included in this game. So the Adventurer's Companion includes a campaign that has 20 different quests that you go on in a certain order. And you can follow along on this map here. And the yellow route shows you the different quests that you're going to go on and where they are on this map. And then there are also these red, blue, and green areas. And those are different side quests that you can go on. And the side quests are in here. You got to like roll on a table to figure out what kind of side quests you're going to be going on. But there's going to be, I think, like 20 different quests that you're going to go through this campaign that has an ongoing story. Or I also have the where'd it go? The dragon armor, again, which is kind of a campaign, but it's even more narrative focused because it's kind of like a choose your own adventure where you have to read paragraphs and you're exploring a dungeon. All the while you're trying to figure out puzzles, and it is more of a complex choose your own adventure. There are things to do rather than just picking which passage you're going to read next. There are different tests you have to pass and puzzles to solve and all that kind of stuff. Now there are, once you start adding in all of your expansions, there are quite a few rules you need to remember, and I would like to see them create a book that just has all of the rules in one place. So if they could somehow take all of the rules, just the rules from these 3 books, and combine them into a single volume, that would be really great. So it is, of course, 100% possible to play the game without this mapping box and just use paper. But I wanted to play the game to have it more like a board game experience. And so I ended up buying the mapping game. And the mapping game, rather than, most of the time, if you're not playing with the mapping game, you are going to be drawing your dungeons. Depending on what you roll, you're going to be drawing your areas on some graph paper. But the mapping game comes with all of the areas in cards, and you just move through and you create your dungeon as you're moving through it. You pick an exit, and then you keep adding to your dungeon as you are exploring it, and it is just fantastic. Such a fun, somewhat light, I don't want to say it's a light game because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of decisions to make. There are some crunchy rules to keep track of, a lot of stat tracking. So in addition to rolling lots of dice and consulting lots of tables, you're also going to be keeping track of how much oil you have left in your lamp, how much food you have to eat, because at the end of every 12-hour cycle, you have to eat food. You're going to be keeping track of how many picks you have, how much poison you've taken or disease, how many keys you've found, how many levers you've pulled. There are tick boxes here for all of your skills to start leveling up. So there is a lot of bookkeeping in the game. But because it's just a solo game, because you're playing with like one hero, the bookkeeping doesn't feel overwhelming. And that's kind of when I go back to say it kind of feels like a dungeon simulator. Almost like you're playing a game like, I don't know, imagine like an old computer game like, Dungeon Keeper, except for, you're not playing the monsters, but imagine if they had like a Dungeon Hero Simulator game that was somewhat like Dungeon Keeper. That's what this feels like. It has that kind of old school computer RPG feel to it, but all translated into paper. Also, with the mapping box, the game, it's going to come with chits to draw for when you have your encounter. So you don't roll on the table, you draw a chit. You will have your chits to draw when you find a door, to find out what kind of door it is, whether it's opened or if it's a magical lock or if it's some kind of trap. And then you also have chits for all of your geographic encounters, all of your different random encounters you're going to be having that aren't necessarily monsters. And then it also comes with some of these tile overlays for certain certain geographic elements that you find, like a bridge or some boulders, some kind of cavern, some stairs going up or down, a lava, different kind of things that you can find like that you overlay, like I did here, where I overlaid this moss in that room. So yeah, this is a fantastic game. There is a ton of coverage of this game. Like I said, I'm not sure if I'm adding any really interesting discussion about this game because so many people have talked so much about this game already. I am just here to confirm that what Geek Gamers and what Rob Oren and everyone else is saying about this game, yes, it is fantastic. This is a game that I am going to be playing for a long time, and I'm really looking forward to, you can already tell like my books are getting kind of bent up. I've only had it for like a couple weeks, but I'm looking forward to keeping in this box. This box is going to become like a memory box of adventures, because I'm going to keep my old adventure sheets and being able to pull out the character sheets and look at them and have kind of like a record of adventures that I've had, very much like I used to do with the D&D red box, where I would keep everything in that box and I could pull it out, and it was like every time you take it off your shelf, it's kind of like you're opening up a treasure chest full of memories of different adventurers going into different caverns. And it's especially true if you draw your dungeons on the map, on the graph paper, because then you could like create a whole book of like old dungeons and the heroes that tried to go into those dungeons and died horrible deaths. And just keeping everything in that box, and you end up with this long history of gameplay, of adventures that you've gone on, while sitting at a table in your dining room or hobby room or living room. And I think that is just super cool. I'm looking forward to filling this box with paper memories of exciting, humorous, scary, and adventurous times that I've had playing this game. And I'm super looking forward to anything else that Martin Knight is going to be working on with this game. I am now a diehard fan of D100 Dungeon, especially when used as this board game version, this mapping game. So that's it. I just wanted to do a quick video on D100 Dungeon, again from Martin Knight. Fantastic game. If you have not pulled the trigger on this game yet, I highly recommend it, because it's all kind of like print on demand. It's not cheap. With these 3 books and the box game, I've probably spent, I don't know, 80, maybe 70. And, the components, you look at it, like $80. Well, you just get some pretty flimsy cards, some tokens that have that soot on them from being laser cut. You're going to get black on your hands for the first few games you play. People are going to feel, I could spend $80 on like something else and get a much better looking thing. But I don't know if you're going to get something that just translates to this kind of experience on the table. And because you really are supporting just like one guy, I think it's worth it. This is the kind of thing that I like to pay money for. And the fact that I don't even think this was ever even kickstarted, this seems like something that would be kickstarted now. But he's just doing it and putting stuff up for like, you can get PDFs. So if you don't want to buy the mapping game, which is, again, it's 100% playable without it, you could get all of the books just in PDF for really cheap. So that would be a super cheap way to go. So all right, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed this, and you will definitely be seeing more of D100 Dungeon on the Dungeon Dive. Take it easy, and we'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.